We've all felt the frustration of tracking a package only to see that it's stuck in traffic just minutes away from delivery.
And we've all been stuck in the thick of city centre traffic, breathing in pollution and wishing for a greener, quicker way to travel.
Well, in today's episode, we take a look at the last mile and how we can make that crucial mobility milestone more sustainable. Population in our urban centres is rising.
Cue more traffic chaos, air and noise pollution, not to mention more time wasted in transit for us and our deliveries. And time is precious. That is, unless we go the extra mile to solve last mile logistics.
Coming up in today's episode, we'll jump into the fast lane with an innovative green delivery service and bypass traffic congestion on a scooter like no other. Plus, we take to the sky in cable cars for a bird's-eye view of sustainable last-mile logistical solutions.
And I met with Dr. Boyd Cohen, urban and climate strategist here in Barcelona, to ask him when it comes to the last mile, what's on the horizon.
But first, let's find out some facts and figures.
In 1 year, the world emits 33 billion tonnes of CO2. In France alone, the delivery of goods is responsible for 30% of their carbon dioxide emissions. A regular motor vehicle emits 4.7 metric tonnes of CO2 per year. 85% of shopping trips are trips to buy convenience goods. 80% of all shopping for convenience and durable consumer goods can be transported on a bike, for example in baskets, panniers or trailer.
Our city centres are all jam-packed with vans, cars, motorbikes and trucks, all churning out air pollution faster than they can make their deliveries. Currently though, there's a real move to pedal away from air pollution caused by deliveries. We take a trip to Paris to visit a startup that's attempting to put the brakes on just that.
Karyol is a self-propelled electric trailer that can fit onto all types of bikes and carry loads of up to 250 kilograms. Be that goods, equipment, or even people. Its designers hope it will encourage city dwellers to turn to two wheels to help ease last-mile logistic pressures. The idea is that individuals and businesses can bypass traffic jams, forget parking problems and staggering fuel bills, all whilst reducing air pollution.
Karyol is a breakthrough innovation. Actually, it's very different from the conventional trailer because we have two motors on the wheel and a sensor on the tow bar of the trailer. And the third element, very important, is an embedded intelligence that we developed to drive the motor on real time, just to make the user feel that there is nothing behind him. And it's just the feeling that you're just riding a bike, but you can have 250 kilos behind you.
Basically, when with your bike you accelerate, the load sensor measures that you want to accelerate, so the Karyol accelerates its motor. When you brake, the load sensor feels the compression and it asks the motor to brake.
Unlike a conventional trailer, Karyol can be attached and detached easily in seconds.
It is very easy to attach and detach your Karyol to any bike. You just have to approach your seat tube with the Karyol. There's a clamp and a lever. You close the clamp on the tube and you lock it with the lever. You've attached your Karyol in less than 30 seconds. When you want to detach it, you just unlock the lever, open the clamp, and your bike is free.
This opens up new possibilities. It can even be taken off and towed through busy pedestrian zones, typically the trickiest area to access in the last mile.
You can use it by pulling it just with your hand and you feel no weight, just like when you pull it with a bike. So you can go on the road or on cycle lanes like a bicycle, but you can also go on pedestrian areas.
The vision is that it will deliver everything from fresh produce to the kitchen sink.
When one day someone will ask you, how will you buy your fridge or your armchair? You will just respond to him very simply, easily, with my bike and my Karyol, I will be able to buy it and to carry it to my home.
A practical, cost-effective and hard-wearing trailer offering a speedy, green delivery service sounds like the perfect solution for last-mile logistical problems. But conventional delivery vehicles use engines to help whiz up and down hills. Can pedal power really compete?
Each year in Europe, 5 billion of parcels are delivered in our cities. And this volume is constantly increasing. And it causes many issues for our crowded cities. We have the issue of congestion, the issue of parking for a lot of utility vehicles that deliver these parcels, and also many nuisances for the neighborhood, like noise, pollution. And that's why we developed our trailer. It's just to deliver all these parcels without any nuisance for the neighborhood.
Whether or not the Karyol really silences the omnipresent hum of delivery mopeds in our cities remains to be seen. But its designers are hoping this state-of-the-art trailer goes a long way to help solve the pollution problem in last-mile deliveries.
Dr. Boyd Cohen is an urban and climate strategist who specialises in sustainable development and smart cities. He is currently Dean of Research at EADA Business School and co-founder of IOMOB. Dr. Cohen, thank you so much for meeting us here today in Barcelona. Firstly, tell me a little bit about yourself and what you do.
I'm from the United States originally. I've lived 17 years outside of the US and I live here in Barcelona now, where I'm Professor of Entrepreneurship and Sustainability at IATA Business School. And I'm co-founder of IOMOB, which is a mobility company using blockchain technology.
Can you tell me about your work with the Blockchain Cities Alliance?
Sure. In the past year, we've recognized that smart cities around the world are increasingly intrigued by what blockchain might be able to do for them, but they really don't know. They don't understand blockchain technology. So we've got together so far 12 founding members, organizations like research institutions and companies, to help cities understand different use cases that could help them become more sustainable or more efficient as a smart city.
In your view, what are the most pressing problems when it comes to the last mile in the world's major cities?
I think cities, first of all, need to do a better job of ensuring that we have density connected to good public transit. We also have a lot of problems right now in the sense that there's a massive explosion of new types of shared mobility services, scooters, taxis, ride-hailing, car sharing, bike sharing, but they're all fragmented and none of them are connected to each other or to public transit. And if we're really going to solve first mile, last mile, especially for people, we're going to have to find a way to enable seamless access to all these mobility experiences.
So it's about better joined up thinking between all these services.
Exactly.
How do you predict delivery services will evolve to prevent the negative environmental impact of the last mile?
I think we're going to see improvements in logistics to enable sort of more grouped distribution of things to people's neighborhoods. So you could aggregate demand from various people in the same neighborhood, same complex, and actually deliver multiple services and products to them from even multiple providers. That will be certainly one way. We're looking at drones as a possibility, although that of course raises questions, do we want drones in our cities? And we will certainly see more sustainable vehicles being driven to people's homes, so electric vehicles, electric buses, electric scooters. That will also improve the sustainability of last mile logistics.
Imagine if we could revolutionize the last mile by each of us carrying our own personal vehicle to speed up and clean up our journeys. Well, in Estonia, there's an inventive team working on just that.
Stigo is an electric scooter, which can be folded in 2 seconds flat. According to its inventors, it's the fastest folding electrical vehicle currently on the market. Designed specifically for the last mile, users can whiz by traffic congestion on roads at a speed of up to 25 kilometers per hour, as well as riding on pavements at a speed of 6 kilometers per hour. Although the bikes must obviously be conducted in a careful manner to ensure the safety of pedestrians. If they need to jump on a bus or train, they simply fold it up and pull it along, like a hand luggage suitcase.
Thanks to this folding capability, suddenly you can go farther with a vehicle. You don't have to leave a vehicle to the street, to a parking space. You can really take it with you, indoors. You can leave it into a flat, into a coffee shop, into an office building.
Its designers say that with Stego, a 5-kilometre trip in an urban environment, which would take an hour by bus or car, can shrink to 12 minutes, saving valuable time and also reducing carbon emissions. It sounds promising, but will business leaders be comfortable turning up to meetings on 2 wheels?
I think it's totally feasible that a smart CEO will actually show up on a Stego. Because if you look at the Stego design, this is more like it's like an urban vehicle. It doesn't belong to kind of a nature. It is really a city vehicle. And I think the environmental impact is actually a big part of this image. People don't want to associate themselves nowadays anymore with like a 2-ton heavy vehicle, but they would rather say that, okay, I'm gonna use something that is light, that has a smaller carbon footprint, and it's gonna be also means to an end.
Unlike an electric car, the scooter can be charged anywhere using a regular plug point and takes around 3 hours to fully charge. With a single charge, the Stego can ride from 15 to 19 kilometers and the Stego Plus from 30 to 40 kilometers, depending on weather, terrain, weight and riding style of the passenger.
Usually you need to have like a 1-ton or 2-ton vehicle to take a 70-kilogram person for maybe like a 3-kilometer distance. But now you're able to take a 13-kilogram Stego, for example, and take the same 70-kilogram person from point A to point B, and you can do it by 95% less energy spent.
Parking is never an issue, as it can be folded and taken into the office, a restaurant or a shop. So could Stego hold the key to low-carbon last-mile logistics? Keys are in fact not necessary. The scooter can be started with a simple swipe of a smartphone, which allows users to share the vehicle easily with someone else, download the latest Stego software and monitor use.
So we also have a Stego app, so this is kind of an app a user can use together with a vehicle. You can open the bike, you can monitor their location, but most importantly, you can optimize your travel. And this is also what we offer to our corporation partners with the Stego Fleet concept. That means that you can really monitor whereabouts of the bikes, the daily routes of the bikes, and figure out how you can make these travels more efficient, fast and more optimized.
So in future, we could all be scooting around our city centres with minimal effort, saving maximum time, as electric scooters drive buses, trains and trams out, along with significant air and noise pollution.
Is it realistic that some of the world's major cities could become car-free in the not-too-distant future? And how can we encourage those city dwellers to get on 2 wheels?
It's definitely possible. Oslo by 2019 is going to be car-free. Several other cities are experimenting with car-free days and car-free neighborhoods. I think the future is going to be increasingly more dependent on mobility services, integrated and aggregated, and less dependent on cars. I myself don't even have a driver's license, and I live in Barcelona, so it's very possible to live a healthy, quality life without it. And with respect to bikes, I think there's a few things. We're seeing an explosion in new forms of 2-wheeled vehicles that are accessible to people, their own bikes, bike sharing, electric scooter sharing, and electric bike sharing. All these will become more and more ubiquitous. One other thing we need cities to do is embrace better 2-wheeled infrastructure where people feel safe to drive them or ride them in parallel with the pedestrian infrastructure.
As individuals, what can we do to lessen the detrimental impact of last-mile logistics?
I think first thing is choosing where you live, where you have good access to public transit so you're not dependent on a car, and being open and willing to embrace some of these new forms of shared mobility like bike sharing and scooter sharing so it can help you solve that first mile, last mile to get to public transit. Today it's still sometimes too easy for people to say, you know what, it's hard to get that mile to the public transit node, I'm just going to take my car 30 miles and park in my office. And what we need to do is get people out of that mentality and embracing a more sustainable but also more efficient lifestyle, and also a healthier one too, which involves this sort of combination of shared mobility and public transit.
When it comes to sustainable solutions for last mile logistics, what kind of energy is needed?
I think today something like 80% of all mobility services are powered with fossil fuels. We definitely are going to see a pretty rapid transformation towards more electrified mobility services. So electric cars, electric bikes will become a higher percentage of the energy mix.
Do you envisage an openness towards the shift for people to share vehicles to continue?
I do. I think the trends are very obvious right now. The younger generation is way more engaged in sharing and having access to a mobility service, and they don't want to own, maintain, and park their own private vehicle. And it's becoming more and more convenient to actually have access to all these different mobility services, especially once they become seamless. They will be superior to owning your own car and having them parked in a garage.
Dr. Cohen, thank you so much for that. Stay with us. Now, thought you knew everything there is to know about last mile travel? Here's one common misconception.
You thought you knew? Think again. Myth. The last mile is the cheapest part of a delivery journey, given that it's normally the shortest distance of the whole journey. Fact. The last mile is extremely costly, accounting for 53% of delivery costs. Despite the shorter distance covered by delivery drivers in the last mile than out of inner city areas, congestion is typically heavier, slowing the process, burning more fuel, and pushing up the cost. The issue of congestion in the last mile is compounded by problems such as invalid or incorrect address details, locations which are difficult to find, customers not home to receive the delivery, and buyer remorse, when the consumer decides against the purchase and wants to return it.
As inner-city populations increase dramatically, so does the need for last-mile mass mobility solutions. And when it comes to innovation, the highest flyers are in La Paz, Bolivia.
Mi Teleférico is the longest and highest aerial cable car system in the world, connecting inner-city La Paz, nestled deep in a canyon, with suburbs and neighbouring cities such as El Alto, high up in the mountains. Since it opened in 2014, every one of its 8 lines has transported more than 1 million passengers each month. Before Mi Teleférico, the main route connecting the city centre and neighbouring cities was a highway that was becoming more and more congested, generating increasing amounts of air pollution and noise. The cable car system literally rises above these problems. A trip which takes an hour or more by car is shortened to 10 to 17 minutes, and passengers can travel in peace. The cable car stations require minimal space and structural footprint, so they can fit in easily in the densely populated city.
Its installation requires a very reduced space in comparison with other systems, like the metro, buses, etc. The size of area that is needed to install a tower is very small, and the cable car stations, depending on what is needed, can be quite small too.
The pricing structure of Mi Teleférico is designed to encourage a wide cross-section of society to jump on board. It's competitively priced, 3 Bolivianos, approximately 30p per journey, and heavily discounted for students and the elderly. The venture has successfully attracted passengers from all walks of life, backgrounds and careers. Commuting and shopping trips which were previously too costly for some are now affordable.
Every day, more than 230,000 people are being transported through this cable transportation system. We have managed to transport more than 150 million people in less than 4 years. It is a transport system that has really transformed people's lives.
Like a super-efficient subway in the sky, cable cars arrive every 12 seconds at the 25 stations, and the service runs 17 hours a day. Unlike the underground, though, there's the additional benefit of a beautiful view.
The system is friendly to the environment because it does not use fossil fuels. It uses electric power for its main drive. So this source is cleaner and does not emit any kind of fossil pollutant or carbon dioxide. Another important characteristic is that at some point we can store energy when the cable car is descending because it can turn its engine into a generator of energy. This way, it would be giving electric power back to the main network.
As well as making a leap towards low-carbon last-mile logistics, Mi Teleférico has bridged the geographical and economic gap between the city centre and surrounding areas. According to the engineers, mountains are not necessary for cable car systems to work. So, soon, instead of being stuck behind a steering wheel for hours, we could all take to the sky to fly high over our major cities.
Dr. Cohen, tell us, what can be done to make mass mobility more sustainable in that last mile?
Good question. I think a couple things. First of all, we need to make neighborhoods more pedestrian and cycling friendly so they can access the public transit solutions easier. And I think we're going to see a transition gradually to more electrification of the last mile logistics and transportation, for example, electric bike sharing.
Tell me, how can public and private mobility services collaborate more fluidly to make last mile logistics better?
This is a very important challenge and opportunity in the mobility space. So there's this trend called mobility as a service, which is the idea of enabling interoperability or intermodal access to public and private mobility services. This is happening in many cities around the world, and in fact what IAMOB, my project, is building is an open mobility marketplace to enable any public and private mobility service through an open API to connect their data to an open market so that any end user with one application could have seamless access to any mobility service, and to allow them to have intermodal routing options. Maybe your best solution is an electric scooter to a train station. And right now, not many mobile apps give you that combination of solutions. So that's the direction that the mobility marketplace is headed, and that is exactly where we need to go to solve the sustainability challenges associated with first mile and last mile.
Tell me, what are the biggest developments that we can expect in last mile logistics over the next few decades?
I think from a personal mobility perspective, we're going to see a lot of what we've been talking about around an explosion of new private mobility services that are paired with public transit. But then when you talk about the goods logistics at a local level, we may be seeing drones in the near future.
So drones delivering our packages?
Correct, exactly. But I think there's some other things we're going to see which is really interesting, which is hyper-local production and distribution. So instead of all of our supply chains being global and things being shipped around the world, we're going to see fab labs and 3D printers at local levels so that people don't have to rely on goods made all around the world. Instead, the goods could be produced in their neighborhood and then brought to their house, or they can collect it there.
When it comes to the profitability of last mile distribution logistics, how can we make that more efficient?
So from the personal mobility perspective, we have a lot of new types of shared mobility services, the bikes and scooters and everything else. Those will increasingly be made more accessible and ubiquitous for people in a seamless way and connected to public transit. On the goods delivery, I think we're going to see a range of solutions. We're seeing the massive global retailers coming up with highly automated warehouses combined with things like drone delivery, which could maybe make things more efficient. And then we're also seeing some innovations at a local level. A few months ago, I met a CEO from a company in Istanbul that guarantees that it can deliver any product you order from their website within 10 minutes. And they do that by leveraging a range of warehouses, 70 of them, I believe, positioned throughout the city, and any combination of goods delivery services that they need at the moment based on traffic conditions and everything else. So it could be a bike carrier at one point, it could be an electric scooter, it could be somebody walking to your house. It depends on the time and conditions. So I think we're going to see a range of solutions, high-tech and low-tech, and innovations in business model to try to deliver things that people want in closer to real time, but also hopefully in a more sustainable way.
Dr. Cohen, thank you so much. It's been great to meet you.
It's been great. Thanks for having me.
With so many innovative and sustainable solutions both on the road and in the skies, it looks like there's nothing stopping us rising above the congestion by ditching polluting vehicles from our city centres. That way we can all move towards low-carbon, last-mile logistics.
Join us next time for our last episode in the season, where we wrap up our green journey so far. We've travelled from the developing to the developed world, where we've looked at everything from individual mobility to mobility of goods, and even a sneak peek at mobility in the city of tomorrow.
And don't forget, you can join the discussion as well on Twitter at CNBC Energy, where you can send your questions for our experts using the hashtags AskSE and Sustainable Energy. But from Barcelona and from this episode, that's all we've got time for. So until next time, keep thinking green. Goodbye.
Goodbye.